Hello, everybody. Today, we're kicking off a little bit of a different feel to these webinars. We have a few different instances of clinics coming on today. We'll have Summer Siddiqui from Kavella Prosthetics and Orthotics, who's been around for a year. So we'll talk to her. And then later on, we will hear from somebody that is just fresh and brand new, opening up his clinic in Texas as well. And we'll close out the series with Mark Hopkins from Dankmeyer, and they've been around for 70 years. So the goal of these next 3 webinars, and we have a little bonus thrown in there as well, is just to educate more people about what independents are doing, some of the trials and tribulations and what they've learned. So feel free to ask questions. We welcome anybody joining in and chiming in and seeing, how we can help. But before we get started with Summer, just a little bit about calibration marketing. I've been in O&P on the product and marketing side for nearly 9 years now. And I started calibration marketing at the beginning of this year in February 2024 with just the goal of helping smaller clients or even larger clients that need somebody to come in with O&P experience and help out on the marketing or product or go-to-market side of things, and support those entities with content creation, go-to-market strategies or strategies in general for their entities or particular projects. And the goal is just to kind of offload some of that, because oftentimes there's not a capacity to bring somebody on full time, or there's just not enough full-time work to do. And so if you want to learn more, you can go on calibration.marketing. That's my website. You can see some stories on there. There's a slew of documents that I've created just for the O&P community. So you can take a look there, reach out. But without further ado, I'm going to add on Summer Siddiqui from Kavella P&O. So welcome, Summer.
Thank you.
Share a little bit about your background, how you got started in O&P, and then we'll kind of jump into learning more about Kavella.
Okay, so I went to CSUDH for O&P school, and I graduated in 2014.
Okay.
That is after getting a degree in biology, and with a bachelor's in biology, you can't really do much. It's more of a continuing education degree, or you can go into teaching. And so I was just kind of like, I know I had this idea in my head of what I wanted out of my life, and I know I wanted to help people.
Yeah.
I just didn't know exactly like in what capacity. And so I went to work as an analyst for a mortgage company, and I continued to intern at different healthcare in different healthcare venues, like doctor's office, veterinary clinics. I was a pharmacy technician for 4 years.
Okay.
And yeah, nothing really felt like home until I found prosthetics and orthotics just in, like in this endless Google search of like, what should I do with my life?
Yeah. What are you going to do when you grow up?
And yeah, exactly. Because I knew it couldn't be, I just wasn't built for the corporate business world, where it didn't feel like I was helping anybody on a personal level.
Yeah.
So I know I needed that. And so, walking into that prosthetics clinic for the very first time, it just changed my life. Like for the first time, it's like the search was over. I was home, and seeing the profound difference that you can make in somebody's life, like coming in a wheelchair and walking out. You have those big moments, but you can also change somebody's life with a quarter turn of a screw, which is just as profound.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and you've worked in some clinics throughout the country, more so on the Texas side of things. Yes. And it's certainly not a small undertaking to then one day, and I'm sure it wasn't just one day, but wake up and say, you know what, I kind of want to do this on my own. And as you and I kind of talked about before we hopped on, the goal again of this little series is just to encourage more folks to get into, not just get into this field. And so maybe you can talk a little bit more about what it took to become a CPO, and then also taking that next step, because there aren't enough independents out there. And it, for better or worse, there's no right or wrong to that. There's great things that come out of being owned by a larger entity, but there's also that kind of sometimes more personalized approach when it comes to individual and independent clinics. So if you could share a little bit about, what it took to become a CPO, because maybe there are some people that are listening in that are also wondering, what do I want to do? And what is the undertaking?
Yeah. So I have a bachelor's of science in biology. And then after that, I had to take a few more prerequisites. And then I also had to take the GRE to be able to get in.
Okay.
And at the time when I applied in 2012, there were only like 6 programs in the country. There's so many more now.
Yeah.
And spread out too. And just applying to the graduate programs, and then I got accepted to 3, and I chose California to go because I did get accepted to Pennsylvania, and I'm like, who's going to go shovel snow for 2 years? No way. Yeah. And then I ended up living there 2 years for my prosthetics residency. So it was just calling my name.
Yeah.
CSUDH was a really good experience. We learned a lot. And then I came back to do my orthotic residency first. It was a split program at the time. Where it was a year for orthotics and a year for prosthetics. And so I did the orthotics one here locally. It was also 6 exams at the time. I think they've combined some of them since. And so prosthetics residency in Pittsburgh. And then after I got done with that last set of the 3 prosthetic ABC exams, I was a full-on clinician. I went to work for Prosthetic One. It is a company in Arlington, and it was super full time. I just had a baby. They were like so accommodating.
Yeah.
And I just kind of worked my way into full time slowly. So that was a really good stepping point for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's definitely, we don't have enough CPOs out there, or orthotists, or just prosthetists, or whatever track is chosen. But so you checked that box, you did your residency, you did your time. And then you worked for some, perhaps at the time they were independent or not, clinics as well, but kind of what was the turning point that after almost 10 years you decided you want to kind of go it alone and see what you can do on your own? Was it just the being able to really take the entire thing on by yourself and really controlling everything and being able to see these outcomes on your own? Or were there additional outliers that kind of drove you to this? Because it's not a small feat by any stretch of the imagination. I know you and I have been talking for a year, and it's like there are so many things to consider and think about.
Yeah. So if you are in healthcare and you love being in healthcare, as a prosthetist, I feel like nothing could be, of course I'm biased, but nothing could be more rewarding. And I also recognize that the instant gratification of how quickly you can make such a huge impact within a matter of minutes, like skiving a little pad, like the smallest things make such a huge difference. And like the feelings where somebody's been in pain for a really long time and you just did something, big or small, and you alleviated that one stressor that they were feeling with every step that they take in their whole entire life.
Yeah.
There is a sense of sort of like euphoria that comes with that.
Sure.
And so I think I'll ride the high, like for the rest of the day. And my husband sometimes will be like, did you deliver a leg today? And so
Yeah.
it's chasing that feeling. And I think setting myself up and putting myself in a position to be able to feel that fully. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, it's seeing it from the ground up.
The
And
ground up, and I can control sort of like the whole process and be a part of like trying to make the process more efficient,
yeah,
more like I can choose how much time I spend with every patient. If I want to spend the whole day with a patient, that is up to me. Nobody else will decide that.
Yeah. No, that's huge, right? And I think that that's a lot of what others say as well, for certainly the larger part of a reason of why they want to go out on their own is that they want to have that ability to make those decisions.
Yeah.
And not, obviously everybody needs to make money. So that's a given. And too well what an undertaking it is to choose a space and location, outfit it, make sure you have the right accreditations, and making sure that you're a part of all these different institutions to make sure that people can actually come and see you and insurance does work with you.
Right.
So
we're in Texas, we're a licensure state. And so I had to meet, just like every place that you live in has its own criteria.
Sure.
And so I remember when I was going through trying to get Texas licensure, I had to flip through a 215-page manual about doors and access routes. But this is just the type of stuff, like if you're trying to build something and build it right and not, have these holdups, then that like just doing it by the book like that, so that my focus can be more like patient care. It can be like the things that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah. So I guess touching on that, what have you seen in the last year, or maybe it was the first 6 months that were the most like, grueling, perhaps we should say. What were some of the biggest hangups and things that you now realize maybe you would have done differently, or it's just an awareness of like, I had no idea this was going to be such a freaking process?
I think I delayed asking for help for too long.
But it's tough, right? Because you're out on your own and you got it, whatever help you get, like people aren't just laying around.
Exactly. In the beginning, you don't even exactly know like what questions to ask. But eventually, like once you start learning all of these systems and applications and like guidelines for yourself, you can start sort of aligning yourself. It's it's absolutely necessary to start aligning yourself with experts of that area.
Yeah.
Like I know I spent so long like trying to design a logo, for example, for myself.
Yeah.
And like letterheads and stuff. It just wasn't like, I make legs, like that's not my specialty. I'm not artistic in that way. And that's where you came in, where you're like, and I just gave you like kind of like a thought and a feeling.
Yeah.
And you created like this whole entire brand. And so, and then also like there were other people along the way. My O&P Solutions, the software. I take a lot of pride in being their very first client, but it also like it was such a partnership where we were both honestly trying to help each other.
Yeah.
And so finding like, I guess, surrounding yourself with people who actually want to help you and grow with you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and we can touch on, you and I talked a lot about this on my last webinar with New Tech Synergies about the power of relationships, because
Yeah.
I had originally reached out to Maria at 14th Element, who is your very good neighbor.
Right.
And at the time they were too busy to do things. And now I'm so thrilled about all the stuff that they're putting out there and talking about so that more people know what they do. But she put me in touch with you. And so like, here we are almost, over a year later.
How could I talk about anybody before Maria at 14th Element?
Yeah. I mean, huge. How lucky is that? Was that planned for you to be next door, or it was just happenstance?
So I had just left my previous job.
Okay.
I was in a management role, just ready for the next step. And I was kind of scoping out, look, I mean, I didn't really like have an exact plan for what I was going to do. And this clinic came up. We're like in a row of like nine commercial units.
Okay.
And she's down at the end. And I met her a few years ago just through people in the field. And we became really good friends. I think it was in 2020 that we met. And when this space came open, she just started, and she knew I was kind of out, like in the market looking for something. I didn't know what. He's like, hey, there's a spot. Are you did you call the guy? Did you sign the thing? Yeah. And like little by little, just those gentle pushes of motivation and support, like really allowed me to pull the trigger.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a small world. I mean, we keep saying it, right? Especially the whole industry is just, there are so many people that at the end of the day, everybody is out with the same goal of making sure that users and the patients are able to thrive and go about their daily lives and complete the goals that they've set out for themselves. So it's definitely, we've all got the same idea and same desire to help.
Yeah.
So
owning my own business, it also puts me in a position to be able to set up the practice that I want to set up and offer the services that I want to provide. So many clinics in the area, like I'll get phone calls all the time that asking, for example, just something so small, like do you take custom or do you do custom orthotics? And I'll say, yeah. And I've had 3 people so far just like start crying on the phone. Like, I have been calling around for however long and I can't find anybody. And my brace is doing this, or this just happened. And I can't find. And so being able to make those decisions of like to touch the things that not a lot of people want to touch, I mean, for good reason. Yeah. And so, I mean, it depends on how you look at it, right?
But like it's your journey.
Right. And I come to work to be able to give that feeling of relief to people. And so even if I'm doing it not quite at the expense of myself, I mean, I can't do it on every single one. Sure. But I am willing to go the extra lengths to make sure, like this kid or this lady like gets to walk down the aisle or go away to college. Right. Yeah. And so, yeah.
It's those feel good moments. Like you said, your husband asking, like, did you deliver a leg today?
Yeah.
And it just allows you to ride that high. I guess, what are some things that you, other than asking for help and recognizing some of the areas that you now know take up a tremendous amount of time, what would you do more of that maybe you thought didn't matter as much at the beginning?
Yeah. I think so there were like a couple of like challenges. So I came out, I started my clinic as a clinician out on my own. Yeah. And the realization that I can't be everywhere, like I can't be marketing and doing clinical stuff and fabricating. And so like prioritizing exactly like where my strengths lie and what my priorities need to be. Like, I need to grow the business, like I need to give patients undivided attention for as long as they need it.
Sure.
Just, I guess, sorting through and picking the work that I was willing to put the time and effort towards, and then outsourcing the rest. So like marketing, fabrication in my case.
Yeah.
And like a few other things, credentialing, having a credentialing contact that will even answer questions for you. Like, if you know somebody, I mean, you can hire, there's like a million companies, but having a friend that's maybe gone through the process, making those connections, and to be able to ask a question at 8:00 at night when you're going through some paperwork.
Yeah. That they know like the back of their hand.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, it's definitely, it's those nuances that you don't think about, right? Because you didn't have to necessarily. It was just about fitting patients and making sure that you do a darn good job so that they can do the things that you talked about earlier.
Right.
And so,
because you're not going to be able to do everything. And so finding the right people, it's also like somebody had described starting a clinic to having a baby. The first year is going to be really hard. You're going to lose a lot of sleep. You're going to cry a whole lot. You're going to feel like you're going to die.
Yeah.
But then you won't. And then you will slowly feel, like the happiness come back into it. And so having completed that year of like getting my Medicare supplier number and like figuring all these, big complicated systems out, now I can start just getting back to chasing that pure like outcomes feeling. Yeah.
So I guess share some of those stories in case somebody's listening in that knows somebody that is looking for a new prosthetist, or is going through it on their own and can feel like they're not alone. What are some of those success stories that always come top of mind?
Yeah. So one, I'm still trying to track this lady down. I had a patient many years ago that told me that she couldn't go to the bathroom wearing her legs, so she just opted out. So she would just stay in a wheelchair all the time because she couldn't take it on and on. I mean, the more she sat in the wheelchair, also it kind of fed into the problem. The weaker she got, and so she wasn't even able to like put it on and off by herself and like live independently, And she would go back to whoever her current prosthetist was, whoever made that leg, was like, I can't sit with it. Going to the bathroom is a problem. Sitting on, like chairs and benches or even couches is a problem. And he told her, I made a leg for you to walk in, not for you to sit in. And so
that's terrible.
And it was a really complicated case, and it did need, like some extra time and some extra like listening and extra empathy. And I mean, so many of my patients have been to like, they've had their experiences and they're kind of like just looking for a sense of relief.
Right.
And I can honestly say I have taken enough control of the process that I have not disappointed yet.
Yeah. No, that's huge. Yeah. It's, again, it's those feel good moments and feeling like you've really helped. And this person's going to be able to do those simple things that we all completely take for granted every single day. But is there, what would be like the first piece of advice that you would give to someone wanting to open up a clinic, other than it's going to be a tough first year? And maybe that's it. Maybe it's just the realization.
It's the realization that when people hear business owner, all like usually the only response or the first few responses I'll get are like, oh, wow, like, oh, all the money, you get to keep all the profit, and like you have so much freedom. But I have
You pretty much
realized,
sleep there.
yeah, I have realized it's way more expensive than anything you could possibly budget for. And it takes way longer than you can possibly imagine it could take.
Yeah.
So don't do it for the money. Don't do it for the time. I talk to other business owners, and we joke that owning your own clinic is just buying the right to work more. Like that's all you do. You can't leave it at work, but like, it goes
It's your
everywhere.
baby.
Yeah.
Can't leave it.
But it really, like, the driving force behind starting your own clinic really needs to be helping people and being the best at what you do. Offering the service. I mean, whatever services you want to provide and not provide. I mean, all of that is for you to dictate.
Sure.
But to focus on that elevated level of care and giving people those experiences through your art, your work. I mean, when that is your focus and you are so focused on being the best at what you do, the money and like all of this other stuff, like, it'll come.
Yeah. What's your what are your
freedom even?
What's that?
Freedom even.
Yeah. And I guess that kind of leads me to one of my last questions of what do you hope that this next year will bring? And I always hate the, like, what's your 5-year plan? Because who knows what could happen, but like, what are you hoping that now, based on the things that you've learned and the resources that you've cobbled together to help you streamline and just ease up some of the things that took up way too much time, what are you hoping to do differently in this next year so you can grow more? Or, is it more referrals? Is it more patients? Is it both hand in hand type of situation?
So I just hired my first administrator, and I mean, she's very versatile in that she'll answer the phone, and she has been primarily working on marketing, both in terms of social media and then making local connections, and then trying to get us into like disability and ability expos. And like, I think with her coming on, her time at Kavella, like, primarily is spent growing the business. And so adding her to the team, it feels like a really good partnership in that we can focus on growth and I can do other things at the same time, because I can't be out there in and here. So I guess finding someone that can be like kind of a backup, to like I need new patient paperwork entered, or like just this little stuff that comes up all the time, like a jack of all trades. That are like really good at everything. But then there's other resources too. What I started with was a virtual front desk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It turns out to be a lot cheaper in the beginning. They're never out sick. Like, the services are set up so that if your person is out, like, somebody will answer your phone.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I've even seen some where they put in for pre-auth on your behalf, like they're targeted just for O&P clinics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's tons of resources. You just have to know where to look. I would say primarily don't try to do everything by yourself. Yeah,
that's, like you said, even the basic things of somebody answering that phone when you're with somebody and not having to feel like, hang on a second, because you're not a hair salon. You're doing a bit more invasive work than that. As we kind of wrap things up, and obviously people can find out more about Kavella and you on KavellaPNO.com, KavellaPO.com, not P&O. Is there something you want to leave people, kind of leave behind for anybody listening in. And if you've already addressed a lot of those things, I will make sure to highlight them as well after the webinar. But I know there's a lot of other things that you're also involved in that you're able to do now and have the freedom to.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to kind of put out there from an awareness standpoint, or, anything at all? This is your space.
So the drive in me to really want to help people is also driven me to places outside of this clinic.
Mm-hmm.
And that is I'm working on a project with a team and two separate NGOs. Those are like nonprofit organizations.
Okay.
We're bringing prosthetics to Palestine.
Awesome.
We're going to start with kids and kind of work our way up through the weight limits, if you will.
Yeah.
And
that's huge.
Yeah, there's a really great team of us, and we've united for the cause. We're all donating our time. Our fundraiser website just went up yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so the goal there is to provide prosthetics to people without a voice and without many resources.
Mm-hmm.
Without diminishing the level of care or the level of the quality of products.
Yeah.
That's our goal. Huge. And so we've been working towards that. We're getting really close. We've started fundraising. We have our designs. It's
awesome. Unfortunately, really there's too big of a need for that right now. Yes. And obviously we would all wish that wasn't the case, but it's great to know that there are organizations and people like you that are involved in helping those efforts.
Yeah. I'm currently working with Healing Hands Foundation.
Okay.
And Physicians for Palestine.
Huge.
Yeah. And so we've kind of created a branch like Prosthetists for Palestine.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome. No, I'm glad you shared that so that, people are aware of it. But I don't see any questions in here. I will add this on just for anybody listening on our next webinar. It's kind of a bonus that we're going to throw in the middle of all of this series, is with Michael Leach, and he's worked in clinics as well as for manufacturers, and then we'll get back to things. But Summer, thank you for joining me today. There's definitely a lot of takeaways for me in terms of what it takes to do something at this level and of this magnitude. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. But
just because you love it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So there's the passion has to lead the way for sure. But like I said, everybody that's listening in can learn more on KavellaPO.com. And with that, thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. And we'll be back at this another time. Yeah. No, have a great day. Thanks.
You too. Bye.
Okay.